Hello everyone, I'm Christoph. Welcome to this demo of the EclipseFan.org website, which, as its name suggests, focuses on eclipses, and particularly on the eclipse that will take place on August 12th, 2026 over Europe, passing partially over Iceland, and then ending its path in northern Spain. This application allows you to visualize the eclipse path on a map, and when you select a point on the map, it will give you its characteristics. For example, here we pick a random point and we can see the eclipse will be partial. Why? Because it's not included in the totality zone, which is the area where the moon will completely cover the sun. Now, if I click within the totality zone, we can see we're in a location where the eclipse will last 1 minute and 31 seconds during totality and will occur around 8:30 p.m. local time. We have information about the times, whether it's total or not, but we also have at the bottom information about the chances that day, based on historical weather data, of having clouds or not. Here we can see that there's a 3 in 5 chance of having a day without too many clouds. We'll see. Still, for a given point, we have quite detailed information and help if needed. When you click on the Fan tab, you'll see what the eclipse will look like depending on the time. And here you can use the large dot to change the time and visualize what the eclipse will look like over time. There's also the option to generate a vol-vel, but we'll talk about that in another video. And the last point is the Horizon tab, which calculates your horizon profile, meaning it shows you in which direction and at what height above the horizon you'll see the different phases of the eclipse. Knowing that depending on where you are, especially if you're in a mountainous area like if I click in the Pyrenees for instance, we can see that the problem, if I'm in a valley for example, is that the eclipse will be blocked by the terrain. We'll see later how to identify this in advance. That's it for the presentation of the information section when you click on a point on the map about the eclipse. Now the map comes with a number of layers that you can change. Here we have OpenStreetMap, which is the open source cartography standard. You also have the satellite map and a simple terrain image, especially when you want to see information layers on top clearly. Also night lights, and in addition to OpenStreetMap, we've added quite detailed layers including local cartography from the Spanish IGN. After this layer presentation, let's go back to OpenStreetMap. I was telling you that in the Eclipse visualization section, there's a weather section that's important. And for example, if you want to choose your site or know if the site where you are is favorable, there's a first map called CM-SAF, which is a climate history for August 12th over previous years. You can see quite clearly, the bluer it is, the fewer clouds, and the redder it is, the more cloudy it will be. You can see the legend here, and it's clear that in Iceland it's not ideal for seeing the eclipse at that time. But in Spain it's much more favorable, even though the Mediterranean area is even more favorable. In addition to weather statistics, you can also display satellite images that were taken at the same time 1 year ago. The satellite images come with a time slider that lets you change the date. You can change the day, month, year, and hours to load archive images. Here we're on August 12th, 2025, 1 year before the eclipse, and you can go back to 2024, 2023, etc. to see what the weather was like at that time. You also have layers from NASA. There's also more precise. Meteosat, a geostationary weather satellite where you have access to hourly data. You can go to 4 p.m., 5 p., 6 p.m. Let's set it to 7:30 p.m., which is roughly the eclipse time, or rather 8:30 p.m. You can look at 2023, 2024, and 2025, and surprise, we can see that last year was really not favorable. Let's cross our fingers for next year. Weather is one thing. Earlier we saw the visibility profile, which can also depend on the terrain nearby. If we go, for example, to the Balearic Islands near Palma, we can see that here you can select this series of icons with pre-calculated shadows by the Basilian Elements team who kindly made them available to us. If we display the shadows, we can see that, for example, in Palma de Mallorca, since it's very mountainous at eclipse time, there are places where you won't see anything and places where you'll see the eclipse. Typically here I click on a point on the map and we'll indeed see the eclipse. But if I click here, a good part of the eclipse will be hidden and I'll only see the very beginning of the eclipse. So this shadow concept is interesting. It's pre-calculated. You can also examine another option, which are shadows that are calculated on the fly on your phone or computer. Shadows can be calculated taking into account 3D buildings if you're at a sufficient zoom level, and here again I encourage you to test it. So here we can see the building shadows, and especially if you want to go to this park to watch the eclipse, you'll be better off at certain spots. Last point concerns historical weather and forecasts based on modeling and not satellite data. These weather layers allow you to visualize clouds and storms. Here we're on August 12th, 2025, and we can see there were indeed storms in the area. Now, more interestingly, by pressing the blue button you see next to 7:30 p.m., there we go, we switched to today, and so we're now seeing real-time weather today over France. It's February 1st, the site launch day. And as you can see, there are storms and the weather isn't great, especially over France right now. We plan to add 7-day weather forecasts soon, and well, we're in February now, but when we get closer to August 12th, I think by then we'll have improved the site to allow weather forecasting for the eclipse time in the evening. So, in the meantime, you can use the application and get familiar with it while waiting for the weather section to evolve. That's it for the main demo section, knowing that we still have the upper part of the map to see. A fairly standard cartography section with plus and minus to zoom in and out with the scale below. Location search. If you type a few letters, you're offered a number of options, and here, for example, we can see there are 2 AZ in France, and you can choose based on the postal code. You also have the small button to the right of the search for your current position. Then we have 3 last buttons at the top right to finish. The lowest one is a button that lets you switch to dark mode, especially if you use the application at night. And of course, since we're talking about eclipses and astronomy, there's an astro mode that turns everything red to avoid damaging your eyes when viewing the eclipse. If I switch back to normal, the question mark button activates online help, which will be increasingly improved. The online help has a special feature. This is where you can change the interface language. We only have 3 languages, but we'll add more. For example, by selecting Spanish, the help is instantly in Spanish, but also all the information display switches to Spanish. Last point, which is far from the least important, the Share button. Let's say you have a map of the area you're interested in. Well, you can share it by clicking on this Share button, and automatically you'll generate a link that you can share via your mobile. This link has a special feature. It contains all the parameters, the coordinates of the area, the zoom level, the language, but also all the layer options you've chosen, which allows the person you sent this link to go directly to a similar map. That's it. We're reaching the end of this demo, and so it's your turn. You can scan this code or go to eclipsefans.org directly, and I'll see you for the next demo. We'll talk about the EclipseFan Volvel, but I won't say more. See you soon. Bye!